Good morning, everyone. We'd like to thank you for being here for the discussion of our 5-year consolidated plan for the city of Erie. Really appreciate you being here. And one thing I just need to mention before I hand it over to Chris to move things forward with the meeting is the importance of the census that's going on this year. We'll be starting in just a little over a month. In early March of this year, we'll be starting the census. It's really important that we get an accurate count. We know for a fact that in 2010, literally thousands of people in Erie County were not counted. They tend to be new Americans, immigrants and refugees who are here, young children, older adults, college students, but anything all of you can do to help us get a good count is going to help the city moving forward, because for every person not counted, we lose $2,100 in federal aid every year for the next 10 years. That would impact this program we're going to talk about today, in fact. So if we miss just 1,000 people, which as I said, in the last census, we missed plural, thousands of people. If we miss just 1,000, that costs Erie County $2.1 million per year in federal aid for the next 10 years. So again, please be aware of the census, participate in it, encourage others so we can get an accurate count this year. I'm also very pleased to be here today to introduce the 5-year consolidated planning process, which I hope all of you will be active participants in. The more input we have, the better plan that we can come up with. So now I'd like it to turn it over to Chris Groner to continue. Chris.
Thank you, Mayor. Good morning, everyone. I'd like to echo what the Mayor said. Thank you for joining us this morning. My name is Chris Groner. I'm Director of the Department of Economic and Community Development for the City of Erie. This morning marks the beginning of a process we undergo every 5 years. It is the 5-year consolidated plan that we construct as a guidance, as a plan for how we're going to allocate federal block grant dollars that the city receives. So it's very important that we receive that input from you to help us better determine which activities are appropriate activities to allocate these dollars to, and today and this morning is the first step in that process. So thank you for being here. And at this point, I would like to introduce to the Mayor's right a couple of our key partners in this, Bill Wazaleski and Kate Molinaro from Mullen and Lonergan Associates out of Pittsburgh. They're the city's consulting firm that we work with in terms of determining the appropriate activities that we can allocate these HUD funds for. So at this point, I'm going to turn it over to Bill to kind of give an overview of how this morning's discussion will go. So thank you.
Thank you, Chris, and thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to provide an overview of the planning process, and really, as the Mayor and Chris said, this is an opportunity for you to provide comments and input on needs within the city moving forward on housing and community development needs and economic development needs over the next 5 years. So I want this to make sure that there's an opportunity. This is for us to listen to you and for you to provide input. So we want to provide the maximum amount of time for that to happen and be good listeners during this process. But I just wanted to provide a general overview on the planning process itself, the programs that these cover, and a little bit about the schedule and how we're going about obtaining needs for this process. So again, as Chris has said, these cover 3 primary programs that the city receives annually federal funds for. The first program that they receive dollars from is the Community Development Block Grant Program, CDBG, and the city annually receives about $3 million in federal block grant money to go to various eligible activities. And there's a number of eligible activities, not an inclusive list, but such things as street improvements, recreational improvements, housing rehabilitation, demolition, removal of slums and blight, economic development activities, job creation, and there's a number of eligible activities that it covers. That's not an inclusive list, as I said. And then you have to meet what we call a national objective. So the funds have to benefit low to moderate income persons within the city and or remove slum and blight. 70% of the funds have to benefit low to moderate income persons, and 30% annually can go towards demolition or removal of blight. The city receives, like, as I said, about $3 million annually. It varies year to year based on the federal budget, but it's in that $3 million range annually. The city also receives about $788,000 in federal home dollars. Home program is a sister program to the Community Development Block Grant Program, but it's exclusively for the creation and rehabilitation of affordable housing. So there's very limited activities that it can cover, but it's primarily for first-time home buyers, home ownership, rehab, creation of new rental housing, rehabilitation of affordable rental housing. And again, the city receives $788,000 annually for that. In addition, and finally, the city receives about $261,000 annually in what we call emergency solutions grants funds, and those provide operational support to the shelters within the city. So the homeless shelters that service the community receive operational dollars annually to provide those services. In addition to this public meeting, this is the first public meeting that we're having today. There will be another one this evening in this room as well at 6 p.m. to provide additional input from the general public. That's just one aspect. We're also having what we call stakeholder meetings all day today. After today's public meeting, we'll have meetings the rest of the day with what we call stakeholders. So those are organizations and individuals within the city that either utilize block grant dollars or service low to moderate income populations to get their input on changing needs within the city and emerging needs. We're really interested in what those changing needs and emerging needs are within the city, both from a public perspective as well as from a stakeholder perspective. In addition to the stakeholder meetings and these public meetings that we're having, the city also has on their website, currently on the city's website, an online survey. So we encourage you to get the word out, to take the survey on needs and spread the word. If you have family or friends or colleagues that are not here today or will not be here tonight, please spread the word that there is an online survey that will be open through the end of February, and we encourage you to take part in that online survey to provide input on needs. Those are very important to provide input. As the mayor and Chris said, it helps the city prioritize and focus its priorities to address needs identified over the next 5 years with these federal funding dollars. So in just kind of wrapping up my comments, I just wanted to kind of go through the general schedule, the planning schedule. So we're on a very prescribed schedule as set forth by HUD and by the federal government. The city anticipates getting its allocation amount at the end of February under these three programs. But more importantly, the city has to complete this plan and send it to HUD for approval no later than May 15th of this year. So we always back off that date, and so we're going through the planning process in January and February. We'll provide a draft plan to the city for their review and comment probably in March, and then in under about the middle of April, we'll put the plan on what we call public display. And I'm sorry, middle of March, we'll put the plan on public display, and between March and April, there'll be a 30-day comment period for which the citizens can provide comments and input on the draft plan. That will be on the city's website, and we encourage you at that time to take and review that plan, because that plan will, again, set the priorities and strategies for the next 5 years. In addition, the city will also put on public display its annual, what we call 2020 annual action plan, and that's the types of projects that they will fund with their 2020 CDBG home and ESG dollars. So again, before I want to make sure we have enough time for public input on this, and so I just want to kind of provide guidance in terms of the types of input we're looking for. So we're looking for you to comment, as I said earlier, on emerging needs within the city, needs that have changed over the last 5 years, and we're really focusing on housing, affordable housing, community development such as streets, infrastructures, recreation, social services, public services, those types of activities, and then also homeless individual services within the community, special needs housing, accessible housing, and then what we're calling non-housing community development needs. So those would be things such as park improvements, handicap accessible improvements, street improvements. With that said, I just want to turn it over to Deborah to provide the ground rules before we start accepting public comment.
Good morning, everyone. At this time, this is when we ask for comments or input on our 5-year plan. If you would like to come up and give comments for the 5-year plan, we ask that you come to the podium, state your name, your organization, and how you believe our funds for the 2020-24 plan should be, and what the priorities should be for the plan. So at this time, we ask you to come forward.
Good morning, Mayor.
Good morning.
And all of the people on the panel, esteemed colleagues that are in the room. My name is Steve Drabont, and I am the Vice President of the Board of Directors of St. Patrick Haven. St. Patrick's Haven is a shelter for homeless men in the city of Erie, located on 12th Street. For several years, St. Patrick's Haven has been a recipient of the Emergency Solution Grant funding, and it has been extremely beneficial in helping our facility keep up with regard to housing these men, which is about 24 men per night. Without this funding, we will, have difficulty with regard to, keeping our budget in place, and so we would certainly like the consideration of being included in this funding. Thank you very much.
Good morning. My name is Matthew Good. I'm the Chief Executive Officer of Housing and Neighborhood Development Service, more commonly known as HANDS. HANDS participates with the City of Erie under the HOME program, and we are a designated CHODO, or Community Housing Development Organization. I would say that a couple things to consider that I think are important elements in considering funding. Number one, housing in particular should be looked at very comprehensively from a neighborhood development standpoint, that housing is one element in a successful community. So prioritizing it, projects that are tied to local neighborhood plans or revitalization plans, I think are very important. The other element that I always like to think about, 788 in certain context in home dollar seems like a significant amount of money, but real estate projects are pretty expensive. It's important to look at projects and prioritize when it comes to using these local dollars or the federal dollars that come through locally to help leverage other larger funding sources. I know that that has been particularly successful in a couple of our projects that we've been able to leverage, with the commitment of home dollars going into an application for larger sources of funds. In particular, the low-income housing tax credit program or federal home loan bank, and I think that those are a couple areas. Particular housing needs, I think that housing for persons with disabilities, we experience a very high demand and significant years and years on many of our waiting lists for housing, and that would be persons with physical disabilities or developmental disabilities, as well as chronic mental illness. And again, an extreme waiting list of people that are on those lists. I guess those were the three areas that come to mind when I think about or talk about housing priorities within the city and where we are looking for the future. So the other element, and maybe I guess my fourth area, is preservation of existing housing opportunities. I think that that's become a focus for us with several of our housing communities, is that we, when they were built 25 plus years ago, they're now reaching a life cycle of needing money. So not only the addition of units, but preserving those units that are already online and need capital as well. So it's good. Thank you.
Thank you, Matthew.
Hello, I'm Matthew Trott. I'm the Division Manager of the Area Agency on Aging at GCAC. And we receive community development block grant funds for in-home services for older adults. I want to relate to your plan, for your long-range plan, that those services are preventative in nature, so they assist consumers to stay in their neighborhoods. And we want to make sure those continue. The other big issue that I think the plan needs to hopefully mention is the lack of direct care workers. There's a really crisis right now of direct care workers to be able to care for those older adults. So we at GCAC and the Area Agency on Aging, excuse me, are willing to work with the city and anybody else who wishes to help make sure that our older adults receive the care so that they can remain in their homes. And I agree, housing is a big issue also, so that those homes don't fall down around them, and preventative services would be my hope, that the plan addresses those in preventative nature, much like we do at the Area Agency on Aging. Thanks.
Morning, Mayor, and the rest of the panel. My name is Chantel Hill, the Executive Director of the Booker T. Washington Center. I also received funds, along with some of my colleagues here today, for youth opportunities. So in the next 5-year plan, first of all, I'd like to thank the Mayor and you all for the support that you've given the Booker T. Washington Center and the colleagues that are here today. I think as we move forward, there still needs to be some focus on the youth and creating opportunities for youth from a recreational standpoint, as well as development of soft skills and being able to help them learn the soft skills to obtain some type of employment. You know, we always use the cliche, the children are our future and things of that nature, but it truly is the truth. So in this next 5-year plan, which I know you have identified that in the previous plan, but to continue to move that platform forward in regard to giving children and youth opportunities to participate in these type of programs at community-based organizations and throughout the city. One of the things that I wanted to shed a little focus on in regards to recreational opportunities is during the summer I coach baseball and coach a couple other numerous sports throughout the year as well. But during the year in coaching baseball, it's very difficult to find fields to participate on for the youth and practice and also play. There is a process that you all have in place here through Public Works, but I don't think really people realize the process. And sometimes it's too late, you know, when people want to utilize those fields. And another big issue is because I coach on that side as well, so I do coach travel baseball as well, but it seems like all of the travel baseball teams are the ones that are using the city fields. And so our own kids in the inner city are not having the opportunity to play on these fields. And so that kind of needs to be addressed as well, because these are city fields, and the under-youth and the underserved population should have some access to these fields rather than travel baseball teams taking all of the city fields. And that's the reason why there's some decline of athletics and things of that nature in the city, is because of some of those things. So in the next 5-year plan, really continue to focus on youth from a standpoint of recreational activities as well as some soft skills. Thank you for your time today.
Good morning. I'm Grace Kennedy, Executive Director at Community of Caring. I want to thank you for your support in allocating emergency shelter solution grant funds. It does really help in terms of providing services to homeless people. In terms of ongoing priorities, obviously, you know, we provide emergency shelter, but the goal ultimately is to get people into permanent housing and out of shelter. And in order to do that, I think affordable housing really needs to be a high priority. Once again, thank you for your support, and I look forward to an ongoing productive relationship. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Terry Lash, and I'm from Voices for Independence, and I'm the Housing Program Manager. And I can back up what they've said about the need for accessible housing in general, because I deal with calls every day of people needing housing. And the wait lists are 2 years, and I can't imagine every day when I go home to my home, that's my sanctuary, and people don't have that. And I think that's a genuine need in our community, that people don't have that to go home. And so they can't be part of society fully when they don't have that home. And it's a genuine need. Every day I feel that. I feel the calls, and people really need that to feel a part of the society. And so I think housing is a great need in our community right now. Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else who would like to give comment at this time? If so, would you please come forward?
If you're in doubt, I'd encourage you to come up and give us some comment. This is what we're here for.
Good morning,
Morning.
Mayor, city staff. First of all, let me thank you for the job that you're doing and encourage you to keep on doing it. But we all know we can do better. And as long as we strive to do that, I think the 5-year plan in itself will grow to meet the needs, some of which have been articulated here today, and others who are not articulated but are on your radar screen, I know. I appreciate the help and the support that I have received we have received at Urban Area Community Development Corporation. We certainly have been able to try to leverage the funds, and that's a thing I'd like to see more leverage opportunities created, such as focusing on Section 3 report. Could be improved. And I think by focusing on it and leveraging it, we might be able to do more in the area of inclusion and diversity, because I believe those reports kind of work in the area of minorities and disparate populations that may not be taking advantage or of the existing federal funds. Everyone talks about diversity and inclusion. It's easier said than done. I think that's an area that we can improve it. I think we should also look more at housing authority programs. We have family self-sufficiency programs that we run through the housing authority, whereby participants in that program, when their rent goes up, it's escrowed, allowing them to be able to leverage purchasing a new home or building a home. And if some of the housing funds that we have could kind of look at those kind of potential partnerships in those areas, even with Habitat. Habitat has a certain degree of success in inner city neighborhoods, building homes and putting people from the neighborhood in them. And as far as any vacant lots for new construction, that kind of leverage opportunity might be helpful. I think we ought to prioritize, again, new Americans becoming homeowners, and the opportunities that we have for keeping and growing them here. We all say how much they have contributed to stabilizing the population of the city. Perhaps some targeted housing funds that create opportunities for them to become homeowners, might make Erie even more attractive to other new Americans. 5 years ago, our opportunity zones weren't a factor. We have them now. I think that to some degree, we ought to either prioritize them or leverage some of the funds that we have to opportunity zone opportunities. And I think that we need to expand workforce initiatives for youth. Again, Section 3 and federal opportunity zones might be able to help us leverage some of the funding that we receive in doing that. And again, like I said, I'd like to thank you for the job that you're doing. I think we can always do better, including myself. I'm looking forward to doing that and looking forward to working with you in the next 5 years to make that a reality.
Gary, could you just state your name and your organization?
Gary Horton, Urban Erie Community Development Corporation, and I might also add a partnership member of the Minority Community Investment Coalition, which is a initiative between the Booker T. Washington Center and the Martin Luther King Center and the Quality of Life Learning Center. And I also might add to that, there is a tendency for the city's revitalization efforts in neighborhoods to pit one neighborhood against another, something just the reality. I think Buki talked about it. We had to be careful about that, pitting one neighborhood against another, and that although we prioritize certain neighborhoods, I think the partnership between the Minority Community Investment Coalition is a model of how to cross neighborhoods, how to bring several neighborhoods into a revitalization effort where you've taken the competition out and where there are any interfighting. And that's one of the goals that we hope to achieve with the West Bayfront, with Central City, and with the Eastside Grassroots Coalition being a part of the three of our neighborhoods. Again, thank you. Good luck in your efforts.
Thank you, Gary.
Is there anyone else who would like to provide comments for the 5-year consolidated plan? Please come forward at this time.
Good morning, panel. First of all, I want to thank you for this opportunity. My name is Joey Evans. I'm the director at the Teen Center at the Downtown YMCA. I would like to thank the funding that you guys have been able to provide in the future. In the past, this year, we have been able to serve over 200 kids through different programming. The programming would consist of cosmetology, culinary arts, we have music production, we have tons of other programming. Through this programming, we address mental health awareness in our at-risk youth. We're giving them an outlet to be able to deal with the emotions that they may be dealing with that they might not quite understand. I feel catching these issues at a younger age allows a brighter future for our teens, a brighter future for the community in general. And with your funding, we have been able to do this so far. I mean, statistics show that mental health issues in our teens are pretty big. And I don't see a lot of organizations or a lot of places addressing these issues and giving these kids opportunity. So we just hope that you guys will be able to continue to help us with this fight and with this journey so that our kids can have a brighter future. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
My name is Kelly Barrett, and I work in the independent living department at Voices for Independence. I just wanted to make comment, as a Center for Independent Living in the city of Erie, we provide a variety of services to people with disabilities, within the city of Erie and the surrounding counties. And I think that there's several things that a lot of folks commented on in today's meeting that are very important. Number one, accessible housing is a major issue for folks with all types of disabilities. The waiting lists are very, very long. The level of accessibility in housing, whether it be physical barriers, barriers for people who are deaf and hard of hearing, those with low vision and other visual impairments, all those things need to be taken into consideration. Funding for youth with disabilities, especially when it comes to parks and recreation. Voices for Independence recently installed an accessible playground at our facility, and it is one of few accessible playgrounds in the area that I've seen, and it would just be nice to be able to see, you know, children with disabilities and youth be able to take part in recreational activities in the community. And one of the other things, the plan mentioned job opportunities, and the folks from GCAC mentioned the attendant care crisis, and it really is a crisis. In my everyday life, to get up and go to work, I use attendant care every single day, and there are continual issues of not having enough staffing and proper staffing, and I think that if the city could work with organizations to develop programs to develop something that would help in the area of attendant care for people with disabilities, people with disabilities could become more contributing members of society and participate more fully in the community, because that really is something that people with disabilities want to do, and I see that every day in the line of work that I do. Thank you.
Good morning, Mayor, rest of the panel, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for the opportunity to speak today. My name is Gabriel Rader. I'm here on behalf of Erie's Office of the U.S. Committee for Refugees and Immigrants, also known as USCRI Erie. USCRI Erie's request emerges out of the Office for Refugee Resettlement and the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services to establish the Refugee Agricultural Partnership Program, also known as RAP. We have quite a few acronyms at our organization. But first, a brief description of RAP. Note that this program works in line with our already established Microenterprise Economic Development Program, a program proven to help develop refugee-owned businesses here in Erie. RAP will be focusing on farm and agricultural business training in the style of a business incubator. We'll be making connections to resources necessary for farmer success, such as farmer-to-farmer mentoring, access to translations, and the repurposing of select vacant lots in partnership with the Erie Redevelopment Authority. Our motivation is to jumpstart financial self-sufficiency within refugees. But this program isn't good just for the city of Erie, but for all of Erie County. Our county has been afflicted by the same statistical trend as hundreds of other counties all across the U.S. And that trend is the ever-increasing average age of farmers. Demographics from the USDA Agricultural Census in 2017 show us that 49% of all farmers in Erie County are approaching retirement age, and 34% are over 65. 11% of farmers are over the age of 75, and 1%, just 1% of farmers are under the age of 25. Our goal at RAP is to create 150 new farmers in the city of Erie and in Erie County in the next 3 years. Our proposal falls into the economic development category, with the funding requests centered on overcoming specific barriers to entry that we've seen these new farmers and business owners face. The first and probably the most significant barrier to overcome is the large startup costs for new farmers, particularly with shared tools and building supplies. The second barrier that we're helping to address is accessibility to markets and the infrastructure needed for farmers to generate income at farmers markets. We're excited to bring this program to Erie because it is a true win for everyone involved. It helps our newest residents to quickly become financially self-sufficient. It will re-energize a neighborhood with many vacant lots through positive new activity and property improvements. You guys spoke just this morning about the census and how important it is. And our goal is to bring these new Americans out of the shadows and make them proud of their contributions to their communities. Programs like this will be a source of fresh, healthy, locally grown, and very soon more diversified food supplies. And last but definitely not least, it will grow the next generation of farmers that Erie so desperately needs. So we look forward to your support in this project and for projects like it in this 5-year plan, and I thank you for the opportunity to speak. Thank you.
Is there anyone else that would like to come up and give comments?
Good morning, everybody. My name is Terry Lang. I'm the senior administrator at one of your local charter schools, Erie Rise. And I'm new to your city. I did have the privilege of taking your survey, and this may not be the appropriate arena for my concerns, but I know it has a lot to do with city revitalization and economic development in any municipality. And in taking your survey, I did not see a question that spoke to a need for the city to have some type of mechanism in place where we can create a system of schools, be it private, public, charter. I don't know if it's something that can be a part of your 5-year plan now. I don't know if it's something that should be a part of the 5-year plan hereafter. But the city is not, no city is going to revitalize itself, no matter housing or what have you, if there is not a system of schools. You gotta have a system of schools. My kids, some went to Montessori. My wife and I were public school educated folk. Some of our kids went to public schools, private schools. But one of the things that's attractive is that I have the opportunity as a resident to choose from a system of schools. And so I guess my question would be, is there a way, is there a plan in place? Are there discretionary funds? Whereas this honorable body could create that environment with guardrails around it to respect what private schools do, what public schools do, what we do as charter schools, put guardrails around it, but require that the heads of these educational institutions work with you guys some type of way to let everybody that's not from Pennsylvania, not from Erie, know that in the city of Erie, education is thought about differently as a derivative of city revitalization. So I don't know if there's funds available. Again, I took the survey. I didn't see any questions associated with anything education. I hear a lot of people in the audience talking about the need to have education in different pockets, but there's no unified system of schools that either one of us can talk about as residents of the city of Erie. So I don't know if that fits into the scheme of things. I just know that it's a mission critical, vital thing that must occur if any city is to revitalize itself. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Terry.
Is there anyone else who would like to provide comments? I'd like to remind everyone, if you did not sign in, to please sign in so we could have a record of attendance. Also, those who applied for funding for CDBG, ESG, or home investment, applications are due January 31st at 4 p.m. And I'll turn this back over to Bill, who will tell you what the next steps are for our 5-year plan.
Thank you, and I just want to personally say thank you for showing up today. Your comments are well received, and it will be take those under consideration as part of the preparation of the plan. In terms of the next steps, as I indicated earlier, at some point in the middle of March, there will be a draft 5-year plan and annual plan on public display, which will lay out the priorities and strategies for the city under its CDBG home and ESG programs for the next 5 years. That plan will be on the city's website, in the city offices, as well as public libraries and the community centers. We would really encourage everyone to take a look at that document and provide any comments that you made to us so that we can take those under advisement. In addition, there will be the second public needs meeting will be this evening at 6 p.m. in this council chambers. And then there will be a third public meeting once the plan is on display. It'll be in the middle of April, early April. I believe April 7th is the day we're targeting. That's again where you can come and provide comments on the draft plan. We encourage you to come out at that time as well. And then council will ultimately adopt this plan at the end of April and prior to May 15th for submission to HUD and approval no later than May 15th. And then the final, I just want to, again, at the bottom of the survey, if you didn't take it, please take one. The link to the survey is at the bottom of the agenda in the back, and please pass the word and take this survey to your friends and colleagues and family members. We appreciate it. Thank you.
I'd like to thank Bill and Kate for being here. Thanks to all of you as well. I think we got some great feedback and input. We'll do all we can to include that and come up with a plan that's really going to help us transform here. Thanks again for being here. Look forward to ongoing communication.
Please sign in if you did not sign in. Thank you.